Dementia Researcher with a blog and a rating.
Academia is a career built on milestones. Your first research project, your first big result, your first talk or poster at a conference, and your first paper. They all represent progress along your path and act as a sign that things are going in the right direction. Recently I had my first milestone for quite a while. I received my first invite to deliver a keynote talk at a conference. By that, I mean my first genuine invite. We've all had at least 5 of those spam invites asking you to give a keynote in a conference which is 100% a pyramid scheme. It's a very different scenario to preparing the kind of conference talk that I'm used to. Instead of preparing a 10-minute talk about a specific topic based on an abstract, I now find myself with a 40-minute slot within which I've got to tell a story about my research. I've learned quite a lot during the process, so I thought I'd use my blog this month to drop some top tips for anyone preparing their first keynote, and hopefully for some of you these are useful. So let me start with the first point, which is to capture your audience. This isn't completely about the preparation of your talk, but it's a principle you should withhold throughout your whole prep. Remember, you're going to be speaking for anything up to 40 minutes, and you want to keep your audience engaged throughout. Having lots of interesting and exciting visuals on your slides will get you so far, but in order for people to pay attention to your talk, you need to get them to pay attention to you. That means practicing your talk extensively. You need to appear comfortable, relaxed. Your audience needs to have a sense that you are speaking, not reading. Get to a stage where you barely need to look at your slides. That will make your delivery natural and engaging. Speak with passion, deliver your message, and balance a professional approach with genuine expression. Basically, imagine the speakers that you enjoy listening to and emulate them. If you aren't sure, I recommend watching some of the top-rated TED Talks and take note of how the speakers approach their lectures. Secondly, ensure you tell a clear story. With a long talk, it's easy to deliver something confusing and unconnected. By the time you deliver your first keynote, you'll have conducted a lot of studies and generated a metric boatload of data. You have to connect all of that into a narrative with an underlying theme. A keynote is as much an exercise in storytelling as it is data communication. Simon Sinek famously said, "People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it." It's sometimes known as the why factor, and it's critical to a good talk. You need to start by setting the scene about what has driven your research. Everyone has an underlying theme to their work. Even if you think you've got no theme, your theme can be that you have no theme. I've set out to develop as diverse a research portfolio as possible, and here is why. If you nail your narrative, your audience will get on board. Regularly draw upon your research theme as you move through your talk, detailing how each study or piece of work aligns with what you set out to do. Doing so will transform your talk into just another study, into a journey that engages your audience and leaves a memorable impression. Number 3. Make sure your opening is strong. Key to crafting that narrative I just spoke about is nailing your opening. Cynthia Ozick famously said, 2 things remain irretrievable: time and a first impression. People often decide whether or not they'll listen to a talk based on the opening 30 to 60 seconds. If you don't captivate people within that time limit, you'll lose a lot of the audience before it gets really interesting. Nobody likes a labour-intensive opening talk going through a load of papers from other people. State your purpose, your goals, and what impact you want to have in the field, and then dive into the interesting data that prompted your invite in the first place. Something like a surprising fact that underpins your work or a rhetorical question will always grab the audience. And number 4, speaking of the audience, make sure you know them. This is quite a short and simple one, but tailor your talk to the audience, especially if your work is interdisciplinary. Don't labour on the principles that your audience will already know, and explain the ones that they won't. Your talk needs to be relatable and understandable. A simple principle, but not one to forget. Number 5, make your talk attractive. This goes back to capturing your audience. If you're going to be up there presenting slides for 30 to 40 minutes, make them look nice. Treat every slide like it's a poster. Slides filled with blocks of black text are interesting to nobody. Why use 200 words when a picture can tell the same story? The words come out of your mouth. They don't need to be on the slides. Includes words only in slides, titles and annotations on images. Maybe the odd bullet point every now and then, just to illustrate your take-homes. But when it comes to results, make your images and graphs big and bold. That's what people have come to see. And wherever possible, include moving visuals like videos and renders. Look at your slide with an objective view and say, does this look exciting? My last presentation contained 600 words across 15 slides. That's 40 words a slide, most of which were titles and acknowledgements at the end. Number 6. Drive it home with your conclusion. The closing of your talk is a final chance to leave a lasting impression on the audience. You need to make sure that you summarise the key take-homes and relate it back to the why factor you started with, but make sure you also look to the future. People will want to know where you're going next, as it's likely to be even more exciting than what you've just showed. Most importantly, tell the audience how this impacts them. What does your story tell them, and how does its message benefit them? You are there, in part, to inspire the audience. That sounds cheesy, but it is true. Your closing should be the thing that keeps the talk in the minds of your audience. You need to essentially say to your audience, this is what I discussed, this is why it's exciting, and this is how it can apply to a project like yours. If you incorporate all these factors, you're sure to deliver something that will be remembered by your audience. A well-told, narrative-driven keynote can be the highlight of a conference. Nail it, and you never know who you might inspire in the process.
Thank you for listening. Join the Dementia Research bloggers and share your own views.